G'day, this is another one of those quick little videos to talk about how to improve your demo skills, and this one talks about specifically how to show multiple instances of systems through virtualization on a single box that's local to your environment. So I've got a single box here, which is my demo laptop up and running with a bunch of virtual machines on it that I typically would go off and show in a demo. Now, all the previous notes that I've mentioned before apply. So as you can see, I've gotten rid of my date and time clock. I've gotten rid of the extra stuff on my desktop. I have some indication about what the system is up in the top corner for familiarity. But most importantly, I already have this set to the proper resolution of 1280 by 720. Now this first one with HyperV Manager, you can see here that I've got a bunch of different workloads. As I mentioned, I typically want to be able to show these guys off. I'd have them queued up and ready to run for my demo purposes. And you can very quickly just double click on a single box and it'll open up the viewer. But notice here that the bars are in the wrong area, the resolution of the client is the wrong resolution, things just aren't exactly all the best. It gets a little bit better if I go to full screen mode, but I got those lovely black bars in the sides and the scroll bars on top and bottom and left and right. So that's obviously not optimal. You wouldn't believe the number of times I've seen this actually demonstrated still in that fashion. So change your resolution to 1280 by 720 in each of the guests. Even if it doesn't show up on the particular picking list, you can always go to advanced settings and then choose list all modes 1280 by 720. Once you do that, this will fix the black bars and give you some good fidelity for what everything should look like across the board. This looks like a regular system. You have the full width and you have a title bar at the top. You can choose to keep that there. Some people like it, some people don't. It's your call. I tend to actually leave mine there as a frame of reference for where I'm at. And then you can obviously bring it back if you need to. Now you still have full fidelity to be able to go off and to use your tools. I have Zoom It loaded within the guest systems. That allows me to still go ahead and do my accents as you would expect. I can zoom in, zoom out, and it's a reasonably good experience of what things look like. One thing this has going for it is because it is a viewer, it shows you the entire experience of the machine through the entire post process, whether it's a Windows system or a non-Windows system. So that might come into play for your situation if you're trying to demonstrate this. Here I am shutting down the system and watching the entire process going from stopping services, restarting, a very quick post, quickly flashes the wrong resolution because of the way that works, but then eventually comes back to the entire application and group policy. Here's the log on screen. Control-Alt-N, in case you're wondering, to be able to get that up. Put in your password, and then you're back to your desktop like you should be, like you're expected to be. That is one main advantage of the HyperV Viewer. Now, the one downside to this is that the default viewer only allows you to open up one system at a time. You have to actually go and manually fire off a connection to each one of your systems. Let's see the second way, using remote desktop services and the local system. Now here with Virtual Switch Manager in 2012 version of HyperV, you are able to go off and to see that you got multiple switches, but they're all labeled as private right now. I'm just going to pull up my network cards. You can see I've got my Ethernet cable, my Wi-Fi connection, that's it. Now if I choose my CorpNet private network that all the machines are on, change it to internal, what that actually does is it loads a internal network card to that particular HyperV switch on my host system. And if I view details, I happen to have gotten a DHCP address from one of my systems that's running DHCP within my isolated network. I could hard code that if I wanted to. I prefer to actually hard code it, but this is just a quick little demo. Now, it's internal only, so only this host and those machines can talk to each other. But that means I can now use good old Remote Desktop Connection, or MSTSC, which gives me much more granular control over what local resources I want to bring to the system, what experience I want to have from a remote desktop experience with full fidelity, including obviously the full screen resolution and the highest quality graphics. So this one works out pretty well for how you want to go off and to work with it. So let me connect up here, user ID and password. Connection quality, you see a quick log on screen, and then you get, again, the full fidelity. You get the background bitmaps because you're in the high LAN mode as opposed to auto detect. Auto detect will actually slow you down as it tries to detect the connection quality. And because you're local to the box, you're not actually going across the network, the screen is quite responsive. You can see the things, you can go through and highlight like you normally would with Zoom It. Everything's basically as it should be for a remote desktop connection. Now, the neat thing about this is you have the ability to work with jump lists on Windows 8 and Windows 7, which allows you to see all the previously viewed servers you want to connect up to, which comes in quite handy, again, if you want to go off and quickly fire up a machine you need to for your demo. Here I can connect up to server 1. Logs me on, everything's fine, looks good, as it should. Now, the neat thing about this as well is that now it appears as my recent list of servers. I can also pin these individually to my taskbar if I wanted to. But what I'm going to do now is actually kind of the way that I like to run with this is I want to go ahead and I'm going to make an individual RDP file for each one of the systems I want to go off and manage. So you just fire up remote desktop connections, double check your settings, type in server 1, click on save as, and then give it a name and a location. Because my desktop's nice and clean, I'm just going to choose server 1, save it to my desktop. And I'm going to go ahead and repeat this process for server 2, do a save as, save it to server 2, and then also for server 3. You can obviously cache your credentials if you wanted to with these as well, if that helps you out. Now with this, I now have on my desktop 3 nice little icons. I can arrange them however I want to. I can possibly group them like a network diagram if I want to get kind of crazy. And I now have the ability to go off and quickly launch them, log on with credentials that have been cached, and then there we go. I'm now in server 2, launch up server 3. It's kind of like you're warming up your systems basically to be able to do your demos. And then start off server 1. I forgot to open up server 1 here, so I'll just go ahead and change this from the drop-down list to server 1, connect up, and there's server 1. And now all 3 are across the bottom. I can flip very quickly between them, and it's all good. I've actually even chosen to display the full non-condensed version of the tiles on the bottom of the taskbar to make sure it's all there. Whether you go one way or the other way, it really comes down to personal preference. I tend to lean more towards the remote desktop and the internal switch, mainly because of this also second feature of being able to go ahead, because I have a network connection to CorpNet, I can actually go in and interact with shares that happen to be on the system and be able to share files back and forth between my host system and my demo environments very quickly and easily if I needed to. So that comes in quite handy for some stuff that I do. Which one are you going to choose? It comes down to your preference. Just make sure of the golden rule, set your resolution correctly, make sure you've got it set in each of your machines, and that you go off and you test your video connections. Hope you enjoyed that. Very quick and easy little demo about choosing your remote viewing capabilities. That works great on a system where all the devices are stored locally inside your virtualization solution on your local box.